Hi guys, in this video we're going to look at class and style bindings. So when we're discussing template syntax, I happened to hint on class binding, but I didn't talk about style binding. So I felt like it's very important to get a whole picture of this. So to do this, I'm going to remove most of the things that we did. Okay, anyway. Actually, let me not do that. I'm just going to build on this particular one. So now, when we're talking about template syntax, we talk about view directives, and view directives are those attributes that we pass to a particular HTML element, starting with the v hyphen. So those of the vbind, the vifs, the vshow that we see here, the vmodel, these are all view directives. So the vbind can be used on so many things. So this was an example that we discussed in template syntax, how to bind a class to a particular element. And for this case, this is our element here. The this this particular paragraph. Now I'm going to first of all tell you that now when you are giving to bind a class to a particular element, all you have to do is you can pass an object like what we have done here. This is where you're binding just one class to this particular element. So we are binding the active. Now, again, something you need to pay close attention to is that I am putting my active, which is a class name, inside quote, but it will work quite fine even if I remove the quote. That one only applies to class names that like, how do I say, like one word. But there are some class names where you have active name, let's say. Here it is two word and I'm using a hyphen to concatenate them. So when you do that, it will, you see there is an error automatically. Yes, lint is throwing an error. So that's why for those ones, you need to enclose your class name inside quotes, and that will now work with no problem. I'm going to revert back to active now. But that's why for me, I feel like it's a good practice. I just put everything in quotes. I don't have to worry about, but without quotes, this will work just fine. Now, however, what about if I am interested in passing more classes? I mean, binding them. So I can just pass more of them. I just give a comma and I pass in my next class. Maybe I say text color. Okay, let me say text white. No, let me say danger. White on a white background doesn't make sense. Then the binding value, the boolean attribute, I'm going to say true. Now let's go up here and see what happens in our I think we did something. Let's call this name. Let's revert to name instead of let's see. So display true. Let's refresh this. Okay, it's working. So I'm going to inspect now. Look here in the class. You can see this here. We have class equals to active text danger. But if you toggle that state of you toggle this state to false, it will not bind this or this. So through means it binds it. So here we're using an object whereby the values or the keys of the object are the class names, and the values are going to be the boolean values that determines whether to bind or not to bind. Now you don't have to have clear this object inside the binding. You can also have it in your uh, reactive state. So we can say bind class bindings, and then we can have our object here. Put a comma there. So I'm going to copy this. I do not want to type it again. I'm going to paste this right here. Then I'll call that name class binding. And when I save that and inspect this here, it's just the same. So what we just did is shifting the declaration from being inside the template to the reactive states. And you can also use arrays. You don't have to only use objects. So we can have arrays. Say, let's change this to an array. I'm going to remove this here. Now for arrays, for the basic usages, you do not need, you just list the class names the way I've done it here. Just active that, use a comma, just pass it a list. So if you inspect, you see it's just the same thing we had as before. But now the question comes in if I want to be able to dynamically toggle these classes on and off during runtime. How can I do this when I'm using a list? So to answer that question, all you have to do is instead of having this as list of text, you can change it into list of objects. So then the way we had it there, you can have your booleans there. Then you also convert this into an object. Then now this time I'm going to pass here files just to see what happens. So I expect to see active, but I don't expect to see text danger. So let's inspect this, and you can see what we have. It's not displaying what we expect. Oh, because we have false everywhere. Let's give here true. Then I inspect again. Yeah, now you can see active. So so you can toggle these states the way you desire, and it will just work just fine. Now, one thing to note is that you don't have to only declare your objects or your class or dynamic class values inside the option, the data option. It can also be in the computed value. So you can have your class the way we had the full name being computed from this. You can also compute your class there here, then render the value just there, and it will work fine. Now, I want to talk about something quite different, styles. So, well, you know that of course you can. Actually, me, I don't like inline styles. Inline styles are like old-fashioned, and if you actually try to analyze your application using online tools for SEO optimization, you'll find, and if you have inline styles, you get those warnings. So I don't advise people to use inline styles, but if you feel you must, and then Vue also has the flexibility to dynamically uh, bind dynamic styles to your HTML elements. So just like you will expect to do that, you can just simply do you can do vbind, but we can use the shortcut. I just put foot colon and then I put style. It's right there. Now inside here you can simply the way we had for classes, we can have an object here, and then the key. Now we have at least I am understanding that you're familiar with JavaScript somehow, and if you are, you know that in JavaScript, the way in the normal style sheet, if I want to say font size or font color, okay, let's say font, oh, okay, let's say font size. So if I want font size, I'll type font size like this. So now this here, I'm going to put this in text. Actually, in JavaScript, this has to be inside quotes. And then you have to type font size like this. But in a normal CSS file, you're going to have something like this. The words are separated using hyphenated. So, but this will give you an error because this is not a valid name. So to fix that, if you want to use that naming convention, you have to put it inside a quote, and this will be just fine. Let's see. You can see here, you'll understand that this has changed because the previous font size was actually smaller. Now we are using 3 rams, so it's quite bigger. So you can define so many styling here: font color, font color. Uh, let's let's give it something yellow. Yeah, yellow. Let's save that up there. Yellow. Oh, it's not font color. I'm quite confusing this. Now it's just color. Yeah, there, go, yellow. So you can see. So you really you can do whatever you want with it. You can pass any style. Now again, like we did in the classes, you don't have to have this object declared here. You can have it as a computed property, or it can be inside the data options. So guys, there is so much flexibility with this. I advise that you explore more, and you can always refer to the official documentation to enhance your understanding. And if you find challenge, don't hesitate to leave a comment and request for any additional video on this. I'll be happy to do so. So thank you for watching. Until next time.